You're muted.
Sister Anita, no
You need to
sound.
unmute. There you are.
Wow, I forgot to unmute myself. So let's start again. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Anita, and I welcome everyone on behalf of Manhattan Meditation Center. So just a few necessary announcements and the important ones too. Recordings of these talks are available on Manhattan Center's YouTube channel and Facebook page. On YouTube channel, we have created a playlist. It is called Wisdom in Action. This whole series of lecture is called actually Wisdom in Action. So we are filing all the talks under that label. Besides this, Manhattan Center offers meditation, live meditation for 15 to 20 minutes twice a day. Power Boost meditation at 12 p.m. and Good Night meditation at 8 p.m. And Power Boost is from Monday to Friday, and Good Night meditation is Monday to Saturday at 8 p.m. And on Sundays, it is at 7:30 p.m. We encourage you to join, put some effort and make some time for yourself and join the meditation live. If it's not possible, recordings are again available on our YouTube channel as well as on the Facebook. You still can take the benefit of it at your own convenience. This Saturday on December 18th, Manhattan Center is offering a workshop, Meditation in Movements. And the facilitators are sisters who are, one is a one is a doctor, a practicing doctor, another is an IT professional. Both jobs really demand a lot of time and attention. And I think it'll be worth your time to hear their experiences, how they keep themselves still focused and in meditative state of mind while they are on their jobs. The timings are from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Registration link is available on the website of Manhattan Center. Please do make an effort to register and also encourage your friends and family to join. That's all for the housekeeping. You know, we are a spiritual organization. In spirituality, one of the principles is nonviolence. And whenever we hear the word nonviolence, first thought which comes to mind is the violence towards animals, right? But there is more to it. Violence, of course, towards others. You can have, you can be in fist fight with others and all. But what spirituality focuses is the violence towards self. It encourages and actually really impresses upon it that we should be non-violence towards ourselves. Did you ever think that you are actually violent to yourself? And what does it actually mean? We are not beating ourselves, right? But we are doing something which is, as per spirituality, is labeled as violence. And that is violence through our thoughts, criticizing ourselves, being a, what is that famous phrase? Debbie Downer. And I know I'm number one in that. I'm my own worst self-critic. But what happens is that it does impact the quality of relationship, what you have with others. First with self and then with others. They say, right, you have to love yourself to love others. And that's where it really ties up. So that's what is today's topic is about. The fight with oneself or love for oneself. So let's hear from Sister Judy Rodgers. What do we need to do to make sure that we are loving ourselves? I really need to learn that because I know I'm very, I'm still trying to understand how to do that. It took me a long time to understand that I'm not truly happy. And the reason for that I figured out is that I don't love myself. So I'm going to invite Sister Judy Rodgers. Most of you must be familiar. You have Sister Judy is our regular guest speaker. When she's regular, I think I shouldn't even say guest. um, she's a media consultant. Okay, I'm going to hold that introduction now for the next.
Good. That's a
Very
good.
warm welcome, Sister Judy.
Thank you, Anita.
I'm ready with my pen to take notes today.
Oh gosh, well, let's make it more of a conversation than a talk, huh? Because I actually just got back to Peace Village a couple hours ago. And I am going to talk about the subject we talked about, but I'm going to work my way around it a little bit because my thoughts are with an experience I just had. So I left last Friday and I went to see a friend in California, and the friend is she's having struggles with health. So she's had a big stroke, and then she's had small strokes, and she's not that old. And the body is causing her to have some trouble moving the way she likes to move and speaking as clearly as she'd like. So we got word that she was feeling low after the visit to the doctor. So I jumped on a plane on Friday, flew to San Francisco, which those of you in New York know that that's not trivial. You might as well go to Europe as go to California. So, and I'm thinking about what happened when I got there. So this is a soul who has a lot of spiritual wisdom. She's really lovely, been a friend for 25 years or so. And when we got there, she was very happy to see us. But she was saying over and over, what can I do? I don't know what I can do. And I don't know what is going to happen. And because her mind is affected a bit by the stroke, this was a little bit of a loop, you know? What can I do? And I don't know what's going to happen. And she was in a bit of sorrow. So over those next few days, what we did was we just gave her company. We had our meals together. We meditated together. We agreed with her that we don't know, do we, what's going to happen. And it's not just that she doesn't know what's going to happen. None of us knows what's going to happen. I mean, we know what we'd like to have happen, and we know what's our kind of program or our plan, but you know that old joke, right? If you want to make God laugh, tell him about your plan. So we can't expect that things are going to work out the way we thought. So we just stayed light, right? There was a little retreat. She went to that for a while. We continued to be together. And when we were leaving yesterday morning, she had changed what she was saying. And she was saying, you never know. And she was saying, let's be together. And that was a long way from what she was saying when we arrived. So how do we move ourselves out of that space of this idea that I don't know what will happen and I don't know what to do, that anxious place, or worse, as Anita said, the critical place, etc., into a place where we can go on, where we have the energy. When we got there, she really didn't have the energy to do anything. And by the time we left, she was up, moving around. She was caring for herself more. She was coming out for meals, etc. So what's going on inside of the mind and the heart affects everything. And that's what I thought we'd chat about tonight. I wouldn't mind seeing a few of your faces. It's a lot easier to talk to your faces than to your names, but I understand you may not be up for that. Hello to a few of you who are. Neha, Ishwarya, nice to see you. Smithers, nice to see you. Mita. And feel free to interrupt me, okay? Bina, Laura, hello, Sony, Shelley, Bimal, nice to see your faces. And I would like you to interrupt me because I see us, hi Nina, as being in more of a chat than a lecture, because I'm in a thoughtful place about this, having just come back from it. So, a lot of things happen to us, and especially around this time of year. I don't know, some of you may be aware, there's actually statistics that at this time of year, people tend to get a little sad sometimes, and they tend to get a little withdrawn sometimes. It's not always the happy time of year. So these things that go on around us. So some of the things that happen from outside experiences. Somebody in our connection is affecting us. This can be a child who you really want to do well and be happy, and they're not happy. This can be a parent, someone who's in your circle of influence, and they're just not in a good place, and you are kind of feeling helpless. It can be something going on with your body, and the older you are, the more things that may be going on with your body that you feel you can't do a thing about. You've tried everything, and it's just kind of a nuisance. You're in there with it. It can be loss. I have a lot of friends dealing with loss of a dog that they just adored, loss of a spouse, loss of a job, loss of a house, to a fire or something like that. So there's a lot of incoming things that affect us. And these days, I would say, even more than in the past, these things are happening quite suddenly. It seemed in the past things came on more slowly, but now it seems that things are happening quite suddenly and they catch us off guard. So what happens when any of these things happen to a person in our connection, the loss, the body, etc., what happens is the mind begins to respond to that. Now, I'm going to presume that your mind is a little like my mind. So one thing that the mind does is the mind will replay the scene. You know how that is? It'll keep replaying the scene. Sometimes you'll have a little part in there about what you wished you'd said or what you're going to say next time. I should have said this, or next time I'm going to say this, or you try out different things you might say, but you're playing this loop. The mind is looping. And it can run. You don't have to be thinking for it to run, right? Once it starts, once the mind is distressed, it just will run in this loop. Another thing that the mind does is the mind resists. So the mind doesn't want this thing to go on with the body. The mind doesn't want this problem that the child is having. The mind wants it to just not be that way. It's a resistance to what's going on. When this happens, when we loop like that, and when we resist what's happening, we actually create an inner atmosphere of anger and disappointment. And it depends a little bit on our personalities as to whether we tend to anger or whether we tend to disappointment. Some people tend to to blame the self. I should have done more. I could have done more, etc. But this inner dialogue that happens, that comes in these situations, creates a very heavy inner atmosphere. You could imagine that that's kind of like a fog bank just rolled into your mind. Because what happens is your mind, instead of going to contentment or going to acceptance or anything, the mind just keeps stirring itself up. And then we, with our minds like that, we then emanate that, right? So if we're upset with our kid, or we're upset with our mother-in-law or our spouse or our landlord, we're wearing it on our face. It's not just inside of us. It's right on our face. And when they look at us, they know. And it's a vibe that comes off of us. And they come in and they're like walking on eggshells. They know that we're not happy. We don't mean to be punishing them. Or sometimes we do mean to be punishing them. But most of the time, we don't mean to be punishing them, right? We're just inside punishing ourselves. And so what happens is this atmosphere gets created around us. Conversation gets stiff. Our faces are tense. We may be giving ourselves some kind of a headache or whatever. And it doesn't work. I mean, that's the most important part of all this is it doesn't really work. We don't end up feeling any better and nobody changes. The body doesn't get better. The relationship with the person we're disappointed with doesn't get any better, or our boss or whatever the situation is. So it's not an effective strategy, you might say. So what's the option? What's the option to this? I mean, how can we do anything else? So I'm going to propose that actually your meditation practice has given you a kind of mastery that does give you an option. Now, some of you may be meditating sporadically. Some of you may be meditating really faithfully every day. So if you're meditating really faithfully every day and your practice is a good practice, what I'm about to say to you is going to make more sense. If you're fairly new to meditation, you may think I'm out on a limb here, but trust me that actually the conversion of the inner atmosphere of your mind, the changing of your response to what's going on is one of the first fruits of your meditation. You can do something about it. Now, what I think is really important here is tolerance. Now, tolerance is, we sometimes talk about tolerance as a power. Tolerance could be considered to be a skill, a spiritual skill. And I know it's controversial, so I'm going to get to that in a minute. I understand if you're thinking, wait a minute, what's she up to here? There's things we shouldn't tolerate. Right, there are. I'll get to that. But remember that prayer? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I love that prayer. I think it's Reinhold Niebuhr, actually, that prayer. But to some degree, that's what I'm talking about. So what was going on for my friend, she can't make the plaque go away from her arteries. There's nothing further she can do. She's been to every doctor. She's done lots of programs. Her body is producing plaque. The doctors have said they cannot do surgery. So there's nothing further she can do. With a child, we can encourage a child. We can love the child. We can want good things for them, but every soul has their own trajectory. Every soul has their own life path. And just because they came into our family and we're the trustees doesn't mean we get to drive their boat, right? They get to drive their own boat. And so we have to be a bystander with lots of good wishes, but we can't get in their boat and drive their boat, right? We can't say, you know what, you're making a mess of your life. Let me just do your life for you. Just let me tell you what to do, and you do what I'm telling you, and things will be fine. No, we can't do that. They get to do their own life. So many of the things going on around us that are distressing us, we can't do anything about them. So this ability to cultivate tolerance. Now, one way to think about tolerance is that it is almost always connected with love. Love and tolerance are very close. I think the easiest way to think of, and I'm not talking about endurance, right? Endurance is something else. Okay, someone's doing something to me and I'm just going to endure. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, imagine the situation where a grandparent is sitting there and the 2-year-old comes over and they climb on your lap and they've got peanut butter on their hands and they put it on your face and they may accidentally poke you in the eye. I mean, and it's a completely annoying situation. But you have so much love for this little one that what do? You wipe off the peanut butter, you kind of fix your eye, and you gather them into your lap. You say, okay, come on. And you tolerate what's going on. Now, this vision of love, and this is true for the self, it's true for the body, it's true for the network of relationships that we have. This ability to have love as your first response is actually innate inside. It is original to you. It's not something that you have to learn. No one has to teach you love. Love is natural to the soul. And when you have that vision of love, then what comes with that is a kind of tolerance. Now, what does tolerance allow us to do? So let's go back to my friend. When I first got there, she was so anxious. I don't know what's going to happen. True. She has no idea what's going to happen. She could have another stroke in a heartbeat. So she doesn't know what's going to happen. And I don't know what I should do. Okay, fair enough. We don't know what we can do when it feels like we're so helpless. But what she did in the presence of so much love, because I wasn't the only one there ended up being about 7 of us who had come together to support her. What she began to feel was, okay, I don't know. So let's be together. So she wanted to have fruit together. Every morning, all 8 of us took our bowls of fruit in around the bed and would eat the fruit and just beam at her. Every day at lunch, we'd set the table and walk her in and we'd all have lunch together. Every night in the evening, we'd gather around her bed and we would meditate. Half an hour, silence. That's it. We didn't try to figure it out. We didn't try to Google better doctors. We didn't pore over her medical reports and try to come up with some plan. We just showed up with love. And the question then changed. She said, we don't know anything. Let's be together. So this is tolerance. We don't know anything. We could all say that about our lives, actually. We don't know anything. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow morning. We don't know what's going to happen with the people we love. So What can we do given that we don't know that? And that's what tolerance is. Tolerance is this acceptance, like the prayer that we just read. It's this acceptance with love. Okay, this is the body I have. I, the soul, am sitting in this particular body. This particular body has diabetes. This particular body has heart problems. This particular body doesn't digest very well. So I tolerate that I'm in this body. I make the effort I can per the prayer, right? I make whatever changes I can. And then I say, okay, let me love this body. And let me take care of it with that love. Let me love this kid. I can't make him do what I want. He's not doing, I know how talented he is. I can't make him do that stuff. Let me love him. Let me just love him. Let me not try to live his life for him. Let me just love him. Or my landlord, or my mother-in-law, or my whatever, right? Pick the most troubled one you've got. Isn't it ultimately at the end of the day that if you look at this one and you say, okay, I can't do anything about this one. You see, there's two concepts in Raj Yoga that are helpful, I think, when we come to this business of tolerance. One of them is a concept we call the drama, right? You've all heard us talk about the drama. So when we talk about the drama, what we're saying is that the way life is coming to us is a result of things that have happened in the past. The script was written before. What's happened to me in the past and what's happened to the people with whom I'm in relationship, because our drama is all tangled up, right? With our children and our parents and our neighbors and all that. I mean, we don't just have a single track. I mean, we're all connected in the way these karmas play out. So when something happens, I get an autoimmune disease, my house burns down, my kid drives me crazy, whatever, we have to say to ourselves, okay, this is in the script. I can't rewrite this script. It's here, it's presented itself. This is what it is. What can we do about the pandemic? We can make ourselves crazy reading the New York Times latest update or the CDC or the WHO and dodging this way and that way. Well, you get a shot if you believe in shots, you wear a mask. If you don't, whatever, you do whatever you can do, and then you tolerate with love. With love. That is love for the situation you're in, love for the people who are anxious, love for all those people trying to figure it out and trying to deal with everything. You bring your natural loving nature to that. And what happens with that, the reason this matters so much, is that when you're operating from an awareness, an inner awareness of love, it changes your attitude. You don't have the same orientation to things. When you have an awareness of your loving nature and their loving nature, that changes your attitude. Once your attitude is loving, you're not angry with them, you're not upset with them, you're not frustrated with them, all that stuff you've dissolved. You just love them. You don't say, why don't you do this and why don't you do that and let's try another doctor and whatever. No, you just love them. Now, I don't mean instead of doing the necessary, you do the necessary, but don't let those other feelings of frustration and anger and disappointment and anxiety crowd into your mind so that that's your awareness. Because when your awareness is anxious and afraid and judgmental and disappointed, then what's your attitude? And what's your vision? What do they feel when you look at them? They feel completely judged, right? and sad. They feel sad. And then when you open your mouth, what has to come out of your mouth? Something loving is not going to come out of your mouth. If you're feeling disappointed and angry with them, when you open your mouth, somehow, even if you try to say something else, it won't work. It won't work. Because that state of your mind is such that what will come rolling out of your mouth is your disappointment or anger or whatever. And then you understand the laws of karma, right? So now that you've said the angry thing, now what happens? Or do they come back and say, oh, I love you so much. Thank you for being angry with me. No. Whether it's your mind or it's someone else's mind, you're doing some harm when you do that. So you speak to them in anger, or you speak to yourself in anger, and what comes back? Anger. Has to. That's karma. Right? The other principle besides drama that's helpful in cultivating tolerance is understanding people's nature, the patterns of their personality. You know, we all have these natures, these patterns. The word we sometimes use is these sanskars, that they're sort of they sort of identify us, right? They have to do with the way our character is. Some people are big and jolly. Some people are slow moving and quiet. Some people are, you know, hyper discerning and critical. Some people are, you know, everybody's different, right? And sometimes when we're dealing with someone, we have the thought, well, couldn't they just fill in the blank, right? Couldn't they just not be so critical? Couldn't my mother, when she walks in the house, not make the first thing she says be something critical? Couldn't my kid just say thank you, because after all, I just put him through school and I'm making all his food and I'm doing his laundry, whatever. Couldn't he just be grateful, right? We have all these thoughts about what we want people to be and do. Couldn't they just be like that? They could, but they're not, right? They're not like that right now. And maybe someday, maybe some life experience will make them have a big awakening. But in the meantime, will they experience us as just being critical and disappointed with them? And if that's their experience of us, how helpful is that? Right? What goes on for them in their minds if that's how we respond to them? If every time I look at them, I think, gosh. Hello? Did someone want to say something?
I think somebody opened their mic by mistake.
Okay. But, you know, the tendency, I think a lot of us have a tendency, and you'll know this from just your experiences with people. Sometimes people think what we really want is advice, right? Have you ever shared with somebody what's going on for you, and then they tell you, you ought to read this, or you ought to try this diet, or I've got this super great remedy, or I've got this person you should meet, right? All this advice that we get when we say that. When actually, all we wanted was just, we wanted someone to listen. And so if instead of that, they had said, gosh, that must feel crummy. Are you okay? I might say, well, I'm not entirely okay. But you will be. I'll be right here with you. I know how that feels. It feels lousy. I am here with you. I am your friend. That may be all they need, right? And that's all we need when we're being hard on ourselves. Instead of being hard on ourselves, we just need a little bit of understanding, a little bit of tolerance, a little bit of love, a little bit of kindness. And we have that capacity, you know, this tendency of the mind to come back with advice or criticism or whatever. It's just a habit. And we can change that habit. We can make a different habit. We don't have to respond that way. So when we're going to develop this power of tolerance, how are we going to do this? If you were going to get really intentional and say, okay, I'm going to end this critical habit I have with myself or anyone else, what's the very first thing you do? Well, you might say, okay, I understand the drama and I'm going to accept the drama. What is. Things happen. This is just the reality, right? Just what's going on. So, and realizing that acceptance and tolerance are the high ground. You know, I think we tend to think that changing things is the high ground. It can be. It can be. Sometimes you can change something that really affects a lot of people or affects your own life or whatever. But much of the time, you really can't. You can't do anything about the current situation. So seeing that drama, accepting that drama, tolerating that drama is the first step, right? The drama or the nature of the person. That's the second thing, understanding the nature. So understand the drama, first thing, look around, look at the people. It's called understanding secrets of people's personality. If you understand someone's personality, which we know the people around us very well, then we tend to know what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So understand the drama, understand the nature of the people around us. And then look at them with a vision of love. We've talked about this business of love before. You know, some people are so lovable. It's easy to love some people. They're so nice. They're so good. It's easy to love children. They're so cute. It's easy to love all those rescue dogs that you see when you're scrolling on YouTube trying to make yourself feel better, right? All those rescue dogs and cats, it's easy to love them. They're so cute. But what about the unlovable ones? These are the ones that need our love. They're cranky, they're hard to get along with, they're disappointed, they're angry, things haven't gone their way. How are we going to love them? We're going to love them not because they're so lovable, but because we have become so loving. Right? It's not that I'm going to love this one, I'm not going to love this one, I'll love this one extra, I'm loving this one a little bit. No. That's not what your meditation practice is about. Your meditation practice is to emerge what is innate in you, the soul. One of the fundamental things innate in you, the soul, is love. You arrived loving. You know how to love. You may have developed some opinions that are getting in the way, but you know how to love. And in your meditation practice, whether you're just emerging the natural love in yourself, or you're connecting with the divine and pulling down that spiritual love for all things, you're uncovering the thing you've lost. There's there's a couple of things that when we lose them, we lose everything. When we lose peace of mind, that's a big loss. It's a big, big loss. We should never allow ourselves to lose our peace of mind, which is also connected with tolerance. When we lose love, the natural loving nature, not love for a husband or wife, love for a kid, love for our family, love for our neighborhood. No, love for everything, love for everybody. That love, we should never lose that. If we've lost it, we should desperately try to find it again, because it's imperishable and it belongs to you, the soul. And the last one is joy. We were born joyful. You look how hard people work to make babies smile. You see how goofy everybody acts in front of a baby, just trying to get them to smile. We talk baby talk to them, we dangle things in front of them, we're just trying to get them to light up. That's because we know that that's the nature of the soul, and when that smile breaks through, something happens inside of us. So those qualities, peace of mind, spiritual, eternal, unlimited love in the heart, and that joy from inside belong to you. Nothing that happens to your body, your relationships, your neighborhood, your house, your material things, nothing else should take that away from you. If it has, then you need to put your mind into, how do I reclaim that? How do I reclaim that? Because, we have this habit of extroversion. We've got this habit that has sneaked up on us, where I'm good if things outside are good. There's a friend of mine who says, you're only as happy as your least happy child. That can't be. You can't make that the truth. You can't be happy if your job is happy, and happy if the weather's good. Look at the weather. It's crazy. We can't make that the reason we're happy. We can't make everybody else's well-being the reason that we're happy. We have to say, okay, I was born this way. This is the nature of me, the soul. And I'm going to live in such a way that I emanate these qualities, that I relocate them if they slip away, and put them at the heart of my existence. Because when I do that, now I'm able to tolerate whatever happens. I'm not happy just if everything goes right. Because how often is everything going to go right now? Given all the things going on, if that's what we're counting on, we're probably in trouble. And that's not what a spiritual life is about, right? A spiritual life is inside out. So the spiritual life is a life of service. The life of service is, I'm going to be in that state of inner peace, unlimited love, and inner joy, and I'm going to move through life emanating that. That will be my vibration. That will be my vision. That will be my attitude. And when I open my mouth, that's what will come out. The last thing I would say when we're developing this tolerance, when something happens that we don't like, that's uncomfortable, we have to ask, is there benefit in this? I know a bunch of people who are having physical issues right now and are laid up with various broken legs and knee surgeries and all that. You must too. But a lot of those people were just racing. And suddenly drama gave them a break. In some ways, the pandemic gave us a break. So why don't you get off airplanes and get out of public transit and take more time to yourself? So there are, in lots of these cases, there is benefit merged. So again, when we're looking at tolerance, first the drama, understand and accept the drama. second nature, people's nature, their characters, their personalities. Understand the nature of the people you're dealing with. Third, love them. Just love everybody and everything from your heart. And fourth, look for this merged benefit. Notice when something that appears to be adverse actually is bringing you a gift. Actually is bringing you something you really needed and maybe didn't know that you needed. Now, this business, I said I'd come back to this business of, do we always tolerate? Aren't there times we shouldn't tolerate? Yeah, there are times when someone's being a racist, or when someone's being, unkind, or when someone's being misogynist or a bully or whatever. Should we just tolerate that? No, we shouldn't. If we can do anything about that, we should do something about that. Whether we can say something, or we can pull them aside, or whatever we can do to address that, we should address it. And when we realize we've done as much as we can do, then instead of living in fury and righteous indignation and huge sorrow, then we have to go to tolerance and love. I know that seems off, doesn't it? It seems like we should sustain that indignation so that nobody forgets that it's wrong. But actually, the world has so much sorrow. It does not need our sorrow or our anger or our indignation. It has plenty. It's bubbling over with it. What it needs is our peace, our love, and our joy. And that's what we need. If we stay in anger and indignation because we're so offended by the world, then we have, in order to send anger, we have to be in anger, right? In order to send disappointment or a message of some kind of shaming or whatever, we have to be in that. It doesn't come from anywhere else. It comes from in us. So if I'm going to be in anger, even justified anger, I have to keep myself angry in order to do that. And from a spiritual perspective, as a meditator, as someone on a spiritual journey, you know that's wrong, right? There can't be anything you've read from any spiritual leader, whatever path you started on, that ever said, stay angry because it'll really help send a message to the world. Can't be. Can't be. Because that's not where spiritual work starts. Spiritual work, the ground of your spiritual work, is your own heart, your own mind. It's your own inner awareness. Everything comes from that soil. So when you're moving through the world in a fragile time like ours, in a time where everything happens suddenly, where it's completely unpredictable, this is the lifeboat. You use your spiritual practice to reinforce your innate strengths. And when you do that, when you reinforce your innate peace, your natural, unlimited love for everyone, the lovable and the unlovable, and your inner joy, then you're not dependent on the people and things around you making you happy. And when you're operating like this, then you're living a life of service. Whatever you're doing, doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be working at a gas station, you can be a lawyer, you can be on the front lines at a nursing facility, you can be driving a taxi, doesn't matter. Whoever comes in front of you is now in your field of service, whoever it is. The delivery person, whoever it is who comes in front of you is now in your field of service. And what they should get from you should uplift them. It should make them feel like they can manage, like it's not overwhelming. They shouldn't be in that question of my friends saying, we don't know anything. You know, what can I do? What will happen? That kind of desperate question. What can I do? What will happen? Sometimes we can't do anything. And sometimes we don't know what's going to happen. So we have to help people shift that question. Because what can I do? What will happen? What can I do? What will happen? It's a loop that doesn't go anywhere. And so in the same way that she went to that question of, you never know, and let's be together. Sometimes that's all you can say. You never know what's going to happen. But let's be together. I'm with you now. Whether I'm with you physically or I'm with you with my thoughts. But the quality of my inner state is such that I'm in touch with you, I'm supporting you, I'm holding out for you to be okay. And in order for you to be okay, I'm making myself okay. That's my practice, right? That's why we do these meditation practices like we do. And I would just say, as I've said to you before, if you don't have a daily practice, today's the day to say, I'm going to change that, right? If you're only meditating on good days, that's not enough. And if you're only meditating on bad days, that's really not enough, because when you sit down to meditate, say, okay, I really need to meditate today, but you haven't been practicing. So now that your mind is racing and your heart's thumping and you're exhausted, now you're going to meditate, right? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You got to tell the mind, you got to tell your mind, okay, every day we're going to sit down in the morning, right after we get up, we have a little sip of tea, we'll read something inspirational, and we'll sit in meditation for whatever the right length of time is for you. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever it is, but we're going to do it every day. Now, we may have to get up a little bit early before the household gets going, but we're going to do it every day. And if you're really taking care of yourself, then every night before I climb in bed, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to quietly go through my day. I'm going to replay those scenes from my day, something that I felt I did really well. I'm going to appreciate myself for that. Something I thought I slipped on, I'm going to say to myself, let me do better on this tomorrow. And then let it go. Don't go to bed with those things in your heart. And sleep with the angels. And then get up the next day and do it again. All right, let me stop. I've been chatting at you for a long time. Any questions, any thoughts, any stories, any responses, anything?
Sister Judy, my name is Joanne. I just have a little, kind of a little comment, something that I heard quite a few years ago when I was in my master's program, and I never forgot it. And it's kind of elaborating a little bit about what you spoke on acceptance. And it's kind of a quote that goes like this. It said, what you accept, what you resist, persist, and what you accept completes itself. And I always found that to be very, very powerful. And I try to utilize it when things happen. The more you resist it, it's not just going to go away, it's going to persist. But if we just accept it, eventually it's going to complete itself. And I've been going through a little bit of a thing with the health issue with my knee. And I love walking. And right now I have like a knee injury. And right away, I realized by me persisting and fighting it, I'm not going to change anything. I could just do what I could do, go to physical therapy, accept what is, accept it, and just move on. And hopefully it'll recover, or then I may have to get the surgery. And mentally, it has helped me so much than trying to fight it and be angry and mad and anxious over it. So I just wanted to share it. It was something very powerful that I heard, and may help others to just remember that. And it's kind of feeding off of what you stated.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne. Yeah, Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina. Thank you so much for this. Nothing happened by coincidence. Actually, I also got an injury for the third time on my foot, and I used to do yoga high level. I was a yoga certified teacher. So for me, I'm losing job. I am alone. All my family is in Europe, and I'm supposed to go there for Christmas and for Thanksgiving. Every time I try to let go the control, which is typical for my country to be always thinking that we are the one in charge, no matter how many meditation, Raja Yoga. As a teacher, I feel ashamed that sometimes I'm the worst with myself. I'm good with patients or clients. But sometimes we are the worst enemy. And it is true. My fear was also, I believe what you fear, it will happen. My fear always been when I turn 50, what if I break a foot or something and I'm alone in this country? I don't have any family. I want to see who's going to be the real friend. And I realized I have to deal with emotional pain that everybody told me, if you need anything, call me. Now that I need, nobody's there. And I've been crying. And I realized what you shared to go in San Francisco to your friend is what I normally will do. Doesn't need to be 25 years friend. Maybe my codependency, always want to help and want to do what I expect people do for me. He made me in a position where I'm stuck in a sofa. I have an excruciating pain. It's so complicated to get an appointment for an MRI, for everything, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I'm like, I'm not going to be here 2-3 weeks. So my question is, what it could bring to a total acceptance, because I'm in a stage of anger. I can't believe after 2 years physiotherapy, I was feeling better. And now same foot all over again. This is crazy. Actually worse, because every time it gets worse, the injury. And how can you get to the level of stability? Because one day I am doing all the meeting with Sister Eta on Tuesday, like anything, and I feel great. And then the Brahma Kumaris finished. And 3 hours later, the paranoid mind comes, the fear, anger. I swing from anger to depression. And I know another lady, she got the knee. Thank you for sharing, because I think I'm the only one right now going through this. But
You're not the only one. No, I can assure you, you are not the only one.
I'm alone and I don't have nobody help me. And that make it, for me, the worst, because what you just share to be there or tell your friend, we there when you left the house, she completely felt the love. And I believe love, we are social animal. I understand that you gotta be independent, but I believe sometimes sharing a friend love, it definitely could help and speed up more than physiotherapy, at least for me.
Right. All right. Well, let me just say a couple things because we're sort of at the end of our time. But one is to do for yourself, Christina, what you would do for someone else. So if you had been in my shoes and you'd been flying to San Francisco to be with my friend, you would have said certain things and thought certain things, and maybe you would have cooked something and you would have given good company. That's what you have to do for yourself. That's the first thing. Be your own really good friend. Be loving with yourself. Try not to let your mind fill with anger or depression. I know that's easier to say than do, but really think of yourself as your own best friend. That's a starting place. When you can keep that feeling of tolerance and love for the self, and there sometimes are real sweet things, mysteries and these things that happen to us. So just if you can be this friend to yourself, keep yourself calm as much as you can. Figure out what I can do in the circumstances I'm in that'll keep me calm and loving. And then if you're able to connect to God, there's great comfort in that. I know that's not easy for everyone. So I don't say that lightly, because honestly, to feel the presence of the divine, it's a very subtle vibration. God's vibration is very subtle. And so you have to quiet yourself in order to feel that. But if you can do that, if you can bring peace into your heart, light a candle, read something inspiring, make yourself a nice dinner and a cup of tea, journal a little bit, tell yourself you're going to be okay. And then see if you can allow that vibration of the divine to come into your heart. And see if you can quiet yourself down. Because you know the loop of depression and anger isn't going to help, right? So you know the loop you want is tolerance and love. So be a really good friend to yourself and see if you can make the divine your friend.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. We have used up our time here. I hope your holiday is going to be great, whatever you're celebrating at the end of the year. Kwanzaa or Christmas or the solstice or New Year's or whatever you're doing. I hope that you will really treat yourself with a lot of love and sweetness and just have complete faith that you were built for this time. You were really built to be right here, right now. I know that feels off, right? It feels like we were built for something different. But actually, no. We're the right people for this time. This is the time we were made for. And the world needs us right now. The world needs our peace. The world needs our tolerance. The world needs our love. The world needs our joy. And know that those things are what are permanent and eternal. The other things will pass. The other things will come and go. But these things are eternal. And that's what you're cultivating inside. These eternal things. So that you can help the world right now. Help yourself. Help your friends, your family, those people you do not know, in the grocery store, on public transit, at work, wherever, in the lobby, by just holding a vibration of love. And you're saying to them, we'll get through this. We'll get through this. I'm here with you, and we'll get through this.